everyone, I'm here with your astrology for the month of February. So these are the major headlines. These are the new moons and full moons, the planets changing signs, retrogrades, all of that. If you want more detailed astrology from me, on my Patreon, I do have a weekly video where I tell you the details of what's happening that week. So you can check that out there. I also sometimes put astrology stuff on my blog and on my Twitter, so you can come follow me there as well. But you're here for the February astrology. So let's get into it. So we start off February with a new moon. Now, depending where you are in the world, it's either late January 31st or early February 1st. So, but around that time there is the new moon, and it is at 12 degrees of Aquarius. This particular new moon is one where you can really focus on a big goal. It is a new moon it's in the sign of Aquarius, which is about big ideas, big plans, inspiration. If you know the Aquarius house in your personal chart, you can definitely set goals for that house. But generally speaking, it's a great time to set some goals for what inspires you in the big picture. It's a good time to set goals for learning things, for travel. It's also a good time to set goals if you want to volunteer for something or join a community group or for friendship as well. Also on Tuesday, February 1st, we have the asteroid Juno, which is associated with marriage, of course, but also women and women's power moving into the sign of Aquarius. So I think that means, like, for a lot of women, it's going to be a time where we're really thinking about how do we organize, how do we advance women's issues, how do we advance women's rights and get organized. I think, in the United States, we do have some issues coming up with the Supreme Court when it comes to things like abortion rights. So it's like, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the month of February, but I do see people getting more organized for the month of February. Thursday, February 3rd is when the Mercury retrograde ends. So it ends at 24 degrees of Capricorn. So when Mercury retrograde, I find when it begins in the middle and when it ends is when it's kind of the most chaotic. So even though it ends, expect that day there might be some travel delays, there might be some communication misunderstandings. So watch for that on Thursday. But as we move forward into the month of February, you're going to feel like things are picking up again, things are moving forward, things are smoother. We also just came out of a Venus retrograde, which ended right at the end of January. And so a lot of people felt really stuck or really stagnant or held back in January. February, especially as it goes on, you're going to start to feel like things are really starting to move forward for you again. On Tuesday, February 8th, we have Ceres, which is the asteroid in charge of things like motherhood, but also agriculture as well, and food, moving into the sign of Gemini. So I think there's going to be a lot more communication and talk about these issues. You might see these issues more in the news around, again, sort of women's rights, women's issues, but also things like food access, food justice, environmentalism, that kind of thing we'll start to see more of. Sunday, February 13th, we have the asteroid Pallas Athena moving into the sign of Aries. So these asteroids, there's 4 major asteroids that a lot of astrologers look at, which is Juno, Vesta, Pallas Athena or Athena, and Ceres. And they are feminine, so they do have more to do with like women's type of issues or more of the feminine aspect of things. So Athena is about our ability to strategize, our ability to think things through, our ability to organize things. Also has to do with justice as well, is moving to Aries. So there's this sense of taking action, wanting to act on our strategies, wanting to act on the things that we've planned. But also I think in the wider world, you'll start to see that there's more action being taken towards justice. There might be more protests, that kind of thing, as we move into the latter half of February. Monday, February 14th, Mercury moves into the sign of Aquarius. So when he was in retrograde, he started in Aquarius and he moved backwards into Capricorn, and now he's moving forward and he crosses back into Aquarius on Monday, February 14th, Valentine's Day. So this is a time, like, Mercury is about communication. You'll find that people are talking more about big ideas, being inspired, inspiration, talking about, how they want to do things differently moving forward, and thinking more about sort of humanitarian types of causes and big, just big ideas and inspiration, originality. There might be new inventions, things like that. Wednesday, February 16th, we have a full moon at 28 degrees of Leo. So full moons are a time to balance things out or to make choices. So we have, the sun in Aquarius, and then the moon is in the opposite sign of Leo. So emotionally, we want to kind of like put ourselves out there, be creative, put on a show, be generous. But the sun's saying, okay, you want to be creative. How can you use that to benefit the whole, to benefit humanity? Are you going to go with individuality? Are you going to go with a group? What are you going to do about that? How are you going to balance that out? And that full moon, on that day, we have Venus and Mars conjunct in the sign of Capricorn. So they're together in that sign, they're working together. So it's like the masculine feminine balance is working together. It's a great day for romance, but it's a great day to do creative things and get that creativity out there, because we have those two sides working together. Thursday, February 17th, we have Jupiter sextiling with Uranus. So Jupiter's in Pisces, which is one of his home signs that he loves, and Jupiter's about expansion and luck, and it's all about, pushing ourselves to be bigger and greater, but also makes things bigger too. It's in a harmonious aspect with Uranus, the planet of chaos, change, and inspiration. So there might be something very inspiring that day, something that we hear about that really excites people, gets people going. There's a sense of hopefulness on that day, so I'm expecting some good news on February the 17th. Friday, February 18th, the sun moves into Pisces, as it does around this time every year. Our focus moves away from kind of humanitarianism and the collective and technology and big ideas. Our focus moves towards the more of the creative and the romantic and the dreams that we have. There's this sense of being more spiritual. It's also a time to really look within and go with the flow as well. Sunday, February 27th is interesting because we have a lot of planets that are in Capricorn currently. So right now, as I'm filming this, we have Mercury, we have Venus, we have Mars, we have Juno, Vesta, and we have Pluto all in Capricorn. As the month goes on, as you can see from this, we have Juno move out into Aquarius, we have Mercury move out into Aquarius, but we still have Pluto and Vesta and Mars and Venus still in Capricorn. So a lot of Capricorn energy there. And Capricorn energy is very much about structures. It's about laying solid foundations for the future. It's about working hard towards a goal. It's very earthy. It's very practical. So a lot of practical energy. And it's also about structures and authority as well. And on that day, Sunday, February 27th, the moon goes into Capricorn and it meets up with each of these planets. And so that's a day where a lot of Capricorn issues are really going to be highlighted. So we've got the moon meeting up with Venus, Mars, Vesta, and Pluto on Sunday, February 27th. So look at your Capricorn house if you know your chart to see what issues are going to be highlighted for you around that day. What issues are really going to come to the fore. Now, if you don't know that, Capricorn tends to rule things that are in the 10th house, which is about career, public image. It's also about things like government and business and structures. So watch for those issues going on around you and also maybe coming up in your own life. Now, I do have to mention something else that isn't big planets changing signs or, a full moon or new moon. What I'm going to talk about is the United States Pluto return. So the Pluto return is any return of a planet is basically, so when somebody says to you, oh, you're having your Saturn return, what they mean is Saturn went all the way around and now it's coming back to the place it was at your birth. Now, of course, we don't live as individuals long enough to see a Pluto return because Pluto takes, I think it's 256 years or is it 248? It's a long time anyway to go all the way around the zodiac. But the United States, if we take the chart for the United States, which is when the Declaration of Independence was signed, Pluto is coming all the way back to where it was when the Declaration of Independence was signed. And I know not everyone that watches is American. I'm not American, but I know a lot of you are. And, you know, it is an important country on the world stage, so I think it's something worth talking about. The United States Pluto return, its exact return is on February 22nd. So 2/22, was it the second month, the 22nd day of 2022? So, you know, that's a numerological, like, wow. Now, it isn't just about that single day, though. When it comes to the slower moving planets like Pluto, these are things that go on for a long time. Like they move so slowly. We've been feeling this for a while. It's just that that's the exact point. Now, Pluto, you know, goes retrograde for half a year every year. So it is going to touch that point, go forward, stop, move back and touch that point. I think it does it 3 times. I think that the next one happens later in the year. I can't remember the exact date, but this is a theme that's going on basically for the year and into 2023 as well. So Pluto returns are about re-examining power. Pluto's about power. He's also about death and transformation. How are we going to change things? How is power going to shift? What do we do with that power? It's also about examining some of the things we've swept under the carpet that maybe we don't want to look at. And certainly we're seeing, you know, in the last few years especially, that there have been things talking about, you know, what's happened in the past in the history of the United States, particularly when it comes to things like, you know, Black Lives Matter, also talking about things like Indigenous rights, like things that have been kind of like swept under the carpet that people don't want to talk about, power dynamics, you know, balancing out power to make it more even and just. So those issues are coming up. And then we also have issues coming up about, like, you know, is democracy dying? Is democracy, like, is it going to go away? Because historians have looked at, like, I'm talking about astrologers. The Pluto return in the Roman Empire was when it changed from being a democracy into more totalitarianism, into something that was more about like a leader, an emperor leading everyone. Now, it was we'll say it's loosely a democracy because it was really only male Roman citizens that owned a certain amount of land, like that kind of thing. But it was, like, loosely speaking, it was a democracy. But it didn't die overnight. It was a series of events. And that's the thing with the Pluto return. You're going to probably hear more about it if you're into astrology. But it's not that just one day. That is the exact day of it. But this has been going on for a while. So we're going to see how these power dynamics are going to change. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go the way of the Roman Empire, but it does mean that we're going to see some of those themes come up about how we use power. So on that day of the Pluto return, it's interesting that we don't have any major aspects going on, but the moon is making some interesting aspects. It's going to be opposite Uranus, the planet of chaos and change, trining, which is a harmonious aspect, Jupiter and Neptune, and squaring, which is a difficult aspect, Saturn, and sextiling Venus and Mars. So the moon touches all of these planets on that day. So it's like there's hard aspects with Uranus of how we're going to change things, as well as Saturn, the kind of structures that people want. But there's opportunities to dream big and to work together. So we'll see what happens, but I thought it was worth mentioning because I know a lot of you that watch are Americans. I certainly hope things change for the better for everybody. That's my hope. I hope it doesn't go the way the Roman Empire went. But, you know, we'll have to all see what happens. That's for sure. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Again, you know, you guys are great. I appreciate it. I especially appreciate my patrons who help me to do all of this. So as always, you know, peace and love and rock and roll.